you read a lot of things about like people on their deathbeds and stuff, and it's like no one ever talks about the amount of money they made, right? It's about the experience they had, the time they spent with their families. Like, that's the one thing you cannot put a price tag on. I tell everybody this, like, you cannot put a price tag on your time.
Good concentration equals good shooting. Good shooting does not equal good concentration.
You have to play to your strengths and to your given, what you've been given.
You can't try to be something you're not. Jim Braddock was the boxer's name. Anyways, but he made this marvelous comeback and was beating everybody, and he was winning, and I freaking sobbed, man, just because I love that victory,
right?
Rudy. Yeah, exactly. I guess everybody likes that.
I don't care what they say, how old you get, or how many times you've done it. There's that little bit of rush on this little ridge, and I reached down for my binoculars, and I left them in the freaking pickup. And
You're such a rookie, Wes.
It is. It's terrible. I mean, I'm having trouble seeing.
They were too heavy.
There you go. We're going light. There's definitely some skill and ability involved, but I don't, especially when you hunt public lands. I don't think you can overlook the luck factor either. Each step I'm going, wow, that's a good bull.
Yeah. So when you got up to him,
I'm just going.
Then what?
I'm going. I said some words that probably only Aaron can say.
All right, folks, welcome to the Gritty Bowman podcast. We are coming at you from, it's Indian Hills, isn't it?
Yeah.
Indian Hills, Colorado.
On the side of a mountain.
On the side of a mountain. We're at Duane the Rock Sessions house. Many of my friends behind the scenes know who Duane is, but Duane you've not actually been on a podcast, have you? Or a film.
I'm usually just kind of back there watching the cameras, trying to keep a low profile.
He's back there making fun of people.
Make sure rude people don't, knock the camera equipment over.
And for those that are listening, Duane has a strong beard game. He's had that since the first time I met him. We've debated, and his brother Wes is here.
Yeah.
And we'll let you know here in a minute what we're doing here at Duane's house and what we're talking about. Really, the star here is Wes, but we're going to talk about Duane for just one moment. I'm convinced that Duane is ginger. Ginger roots, ginger background. Duane is trying to tell me that it's mostly blonde, it's Viking.
Yeah, it's straight up Viking. I mean, I identify as Viking.
Strong Nordic roots here.
Right. Well, definitely.
Whether I'm Scottish or whatever else out there might have some red hair, I identify as Viking.
My friend Grady Rawls is ginger, and I have many ginger friends, and all of them have one thing in common: they're unreasonable and stubborn. You aren't like super unreasonable or stubborn, but you do have that ginger tendency.
No, I don't know.
A little bit. What do you think, Wes?
After having pretty well known Duane for his entire life, there have been moments when he's maybe exhibited a few of those characteristics. But for the most part, I'd agree. He's pretty laid back, pretty sociable.
I probably have some old coaches that would agree with you.
A lot of coaches,
stubborn, but I don't know.
Well,
I've evolved.
It's very cool because Duane, when I first moved here to Evergreen, Colorado, Duane and I met at church, and we've been good friends ever since.
Yeah.
You live about 15 minutes from my house, and we've gone on some cool little trips. Duane's gone with me to the different expos and helped run cameras behind the scenes and just hang out. And
Met some cool people.
It's been a lot of fun. Duane has a lot of pals now on Instagram since he didn't have one before we met.
Yeah, he's
303 Trophy Husband on Instagram. Give him a follow.
There you go.
So, Wes.
He introduced us to it. There you go.
Yeah. That's awesome.
I'm still trying to figure it out.
I got my brothers hooked on it.
We're challenged at this point, but we're learning.
Yeah.
We're learning.
Well, there's this really cool story we want to cover today, and it's kind of funny. Wes shot the state record non-typical elk in Montana last season, right?
That's correct.
And so it's a big bull. What's it score?
It's 431 and 7/8.
431 and 7/8, non-typical.
He's a monster. Yeah, he really is.
So Duane and I first saw it. Duane showed me the picture. He's like, my brother shot a big bull. And I saw the picture and I was like, well, where's the good pictures? Like,
Okay.
there's just a picture of it on like, where's the good pictures?
It's bad.
What happened, dude?
Yeah.
This is the state record. And what we have is like some antler just kind of on the ground with a head.
He did.
There was a
manage
body
to-
attached to it.
He did manage to take one of them and kind of brighten it up a little bit, so it's a much better. It actually looks pretty good, so I will give him credit for that. But
Which one's on the
editing
Montana
skill.
Fish and Wildlife site?
There's no pictures. There are
Oh.
no pictures yet. And in fact, at this point, it hasn't been officially submitted to Boone and Crockett. That's in the process as
Okay.
we speak. But
But the Montana books, it's in there. It's been scored. It's been submitted. It's it's legit.
So tell me the story behind this thing, because when Duane's telling me, he's like, he shot a big bull, and I'm like, yeah, that's a big bull. That's a nice bull. And we're going back and forth, and then later it's like, how big is this bull? Because the photos were so poorly done. I mean, if you take a good photo, the fisheye lens, you can make a little bull look big. This bull didn't need any help, and you still screwed it up.
we talk about ground shrink. That did not occur in this instance. But no, we'd gone up. We'd actually spent most of the season camped out, in an area that we've grown up hunting.
Who's we?
Oh, sorry, my dad. The one that started it all, along with
Yeah.
Grandpa, of course. But he and I and we.
Where was Duane?
Pardon me.
Where was Duane?
Duane was down here in Colorado, apparently helping you. Yeah, see,
Thanks, Duane.
Yep.
he sacrificed all for you, Brian.
Yeah.
There you go. But
So it was you and your dad,
and our younger brother Scott.
and this is an area you've hunted.
Pretty much our whole lives.
Your whole lives.
Well, adult life.
You just
for
grew
me.
up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in that area. And, that's kind of the side story, I guess, is that the possibility does still exist, that a guy can go out and actually, find something of this nature, a bull of this caliber.
This is all public land.
All public
nothing
land,
private.
Self-guided.
Tell me this. Did you need points to draw this tag?
That's another interesting question. It's a good thing Dad isn't here.
Yeah.
You are allowed to accrue preference points. For it is a draw area, I might add. It's not a general tag.
It's not an over-the-counter
Correct.
tag.
And Dad has accrued many points in that category, and the rest of us have drawn them periodically in this time frame over the last 10 or 15 years. And he's still waiting. He's not angry, but we're approaching that area.
So you drew it.
I drew it. This
How
is
many
actually
points?
the second one that I've drawn. I believe I had 4. I think I've drawn one about every 4 years
Okay, for this particular
for this
unit.
particular area. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And so
Dude, that's
and,
pretty easy to do.
it's not bad. I suspect it won't be quite as easy going forward, but
Yeah.
when the
Kind
word
of
is
a big
out,
year around that area.
yeah, it
this
was.
year.
See, there was another large bull that was killed in
Harvested
the
in
same
that
area.
same.
The Felix bull that's actually
New Pope and Young.
potentially the Pope and Young world record.
Really, how big is that bull potentially?
He's 430 net. And
Wow.
and I gave you the net score as well. 431 and 7/8 the net score.
Okay.
So and I don't recall what the gross is on the other one, but or mine either for that matter.
That's
Yeah.
pretty cool, though.
Yeah.
So this unit's going to be useless going forward since people have probably
I'm a
figured
little
out
nervous
where
about
for at least
that.
the
Yeah,
next 5
it's
years.
it's in the backyard, but at any rate, my brother, our younger brother, also drew a tag, as did one of my sons.
Mhm.
And so, again, we went up, set up our camp. It's kind of a family thing, a tradition. It's part of our heritage.
Yeah.
And yeah,
So you go up there. Okay.
we spend the first week.
This is rifle. What's the
Yep.
dates?
It's rifle. The rifle opens the 20. It's like the last weekend of October, I believe, or next to the last weekend, 25th.
And then it goes through Thanksgiving.
Definitely something you want to verify, of course, before you go out and start
Right.
hunting.
Right.
But at any rate, we spent the first week, and we were actually able. Dad is 70 something, but Scott and I, we were able to actually, he had a cow tag to hunt in this area as well. And so he was able to harvest a cow. That was like on the second day, I believe. And we'd bumped into a little group of them. And there was actually a pretty good bull in that bunch. I mean, he was a good, mature. I mean, I'm not an excellent field judge. And quite frankly, I guess I wouldn't call myself or consider myself to be a trophy hunter. I mean, I'm more of an opportunity guy.
Right.
But we all have the sugar plums dancing in our heads, Christmas story, night before Christmas, you know.
If a giant bull, 430 state record walks in front of us, we're not going to cry.
It doesn't take a lot of forethought. But at any
so
rate,
this bull, let me just real quick. Did you know there was a bull of this caliber in that unit?
You know, you hear stories. Had I actually ever seen a 400 class bull?
We've seen nice bulls in there,
we've
but
seen
nothing
big bulls.
that big.
And there again, I'm a poor field judge. I mean, I'm not.
Big is big to you.
Yeah, I look at it, you know, and I've been around him, you know, my whole life. So I'm looking. Hey, he's got, you know, some good mass, some length, and you know, it's not all about that, I guess. But so I don't have my field guide out. And okay, you know.
Right.
So anyway, but we bumped this really good bull, and we tried to get on him 3 different times, and just, I don't know, the last few days, actually Scott ended up, we got on another, he was a little raghorn, actually it was a branch antlered bull, which is legal. And so Scott, my brother, he harvested that particular animal. And,
it's all in the same unit with you. So
yes,
he shot like a raghorn bull.
Right.
Yeah. Somebody else shot a cow.
Right
Dad
on.
did.
Your dad shot a cow.
Dad did. And again, you know, it helps that we're, you know, I would say we're beyond probably familiar with this area.
You know this area.
So.
But you'd have shot any mature bull that you had in range?
Pardon me?
You would have shot any bull
I
that came in front of you.
You know, you're not looking at quantity. You know, at that point, you know, we had a couple elk, we had the meat, you know, we had the food.
Right.
So, you know, I was kind of thinking, you know, I might hold out.
Yeah. You got some time.
I always think that ahead of time, but, you know, in the heat of the moment, who knows, right? So, at any rate, we end up, you know, we leave that first week, you know, I'd had that, you know, I had to go back to work. You know, it always interferes with things like hunting.
Yeah.
But a couple weeks later, I'm in the grocery store of all places, and a buddy of mine is saying, hey, I saw this really good bull. And I'm like, yeah, you know, everybody has a story. So
everybody trying to, you know, lead somebody to away from a good
my
spot.
bull.
And,
so I'm like, oh, cool, you know. I see him a couple days later, same venue, getting eggs. How's that for detail? At any rate, he's like, Wes, I saw this really good bull. And he kind of describes the general area, and I'm thinking, you know, as the crow flies, that's, you know, he was probably within 5 miles of this one that we had seen earlier.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, cool. You know, maybe I'll go check it out. So I went up the night before. I bailed out of work a little early, Veterans Day, as a matter of fact, the day before. And I set up, and I mean, I spent, you know, probably the 2 hours into dusk, you know, glassing the whole area.
You're by yourself?
Yeah, I was at that point. And nothing. You know, a squirrel maybe. And so I'm thinking, you know, this is another great story, you know, that somebody gave me. So we've all heard them.
Yeah.
So I kind of go back, you know, I'm kind of making my way out. And I mean, nearly in my tracks, they're elk droppings. And I'm like, hey, those are fresh, you know.
Yeah.
Or I hadn't noticed them on the way in. So that was enough, you know, to kind of pique my interest. So we went back to camp, which incidentally was a few miles away, and you know, went to bed, sugar plums, you know. But the morning of the 11th actually dawned quite
gloriously,
but I mean, you know, every little thing that can get in the way seemed to happen. You know, I wanted to be, you know, I kind of had in my mind as I looked it over the night before how I wanted to hunt it. And I'm like, man, you know, I need to be here at this time and this point, you know. Well, after somebody's like, oh, you know, we get partway out of camp, it's like, oh, you know, I forgot this or I forgot that. And so, you know, by the time it's all said and done, I mean, I'm behind.
Yeah.
You know, when we hit drop point.
Yep.
Dad had come up overnight, and we had another friend that had actually joined us.
Yeah.
That had been intermittently hunting with Dad. Dad pretty much stayed the whole season at camp.
Yeah, he pretty much was there.
It's the perks of
a
retirement.
Yeah. So, anyway, we race to the spot, and I say, dump me out here, pick me up there.
And this is near the area where you were the night before?
It was the same area that I've been looking over.
Okay.
And so I bail out, and I literally ran, into the timber, as stealthily as I could. And I hit my, in my mental checkpoint A on this little ridge, and I reached down for my binoculars, and I left them in the freaking pickup. And
You're such a rookie, Wes.
It is. It's terrible. And I'm having trouble seeing,
They were too heavy.
There you go. We're going light. Let's go light.
Uh-huh.
So anyway, yeah, I'm like, oh, crap, So I spent some time, and I went to another point where I could actually at this time see the pickup. It's probably half a mile away, and I'm thinking I should just bust over there, get my binoculars, and then – but I just caught a little bit of movement off the other direction. Mm-hmm. And so, I kind of had this.
What do I do? Do I go? Do I stay?
Do I do it? Do I not? A little debate. And I thought, well, what the heck? I'm going to go check it out. And when you hunt those breaks in eastern Montana, I think people at times they misjudge the difficulty. It's granted you don't have the elevation, but even hunting here, you can maintain an elevation. There, it's impossible with the breaks.
You have to drop down,
up and down,
climb up, drop down, climb up.
Yep,
So it doesn't matter. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just a different style of hunting, and of course I enjoy any kind of it, any kind of hunting. But at any rate, I'm getting near this.
It's kind of like a Badlands.
Yeah, it is
landscape.
actually.
Yeah, with trees,
with a few trees. But yeah, I get up over the last little rise, where I'm thinking that I might be bumping into him or this movement that I had seen. And it's like, I just barely get, just about this much so I can see
up to your neck or
without my
chest,
glasses or without my.
You're just peeking over a ridge.
Yeah, it was just just kind of a little
rise.
I'd gone through a pretty steep draw, and so before I topped it over, I'm peeking around. It's like, there's an elk. I'm like, whoa, that is an elk, and I'm looking, and he's just grazing in the shadows along the tree line. It's about a little after 7 in the morning, and I'm like, is that really an elk, So I ease up over. Fortunately, the wind is in my favor, or I'd have been done. I'd have been busted out big time.
Long before that, yeah.
And I'm like, well, it's a little bit shadowy, a little bit shady. I'm looking through my scope at him, and he lifts his head up, and I'm going, that's a good bull. And that was it. From that point, I don't care what they say, how old you get, or how many times you've done it. There's that little bit of rush. And, so I smoked one in him, and he didn't move. He didn't even flinch. I'm like, did I hit him?
How far away?
He was a couple hundred yards.
Yeah.
I would say he was right at 2.
Yeah.
And so he lifts his head up, and he looks my direction.
So now you're wondering if you hit him or not?
I'm wondering, did I get him?
Yeah.
I'm going, that's a really good bull. And he turns his head and looks the other way, and of course by then I pump another one in him. And I'm like, this dude is not going to, it's like, what's happening here, And so as I'm jacking number 3 in there, he starts acting like he's going to move, which was actually just kind of the final step, when he collapsed right there, and I'm just going, did this really happen?
Just like that.
Because
that's
on
how
the
it
same
is,
token,
isn't it? That's how hunting is.
It is. On the same token, I don't care. There's definitely some skill and ability involved, but I don't, especially when you hunt public lands, I don't think you can overlook the luck factor either, because if everybody's hunting the same, patch of territory. So,
right.
There's some luck involved, and I freely admit that, but it was my turn. But as I walked up to him again, I'm just going, that's, each step I'm going, wow, that's a good bull.
Yeah. So when you got up to him,
I'm just going,
then what?
I'm going, I said some words that probably only Aaron can say on this,
right.
And I don't even know Aaron, but I do enjoy watching him. At any rate, I'm going, holy moly. And then came the photography session, which I felt, if you look through the pictures I've taken in the past.
So I'm talking to Scott, our younger brother. I'm talking to him on the phone that morning, and he's like, yeah. He said, I'm going to wait for his oldest son to get out of school, and then I'm going to head down there and help Wes. And And as I'm talking to Scott on the phone, this text comes in, and I kind of glance at it. I go back talking to him, and I hang up, and I look at that text immediately. And Wes had sent me a picture of this bull, and I'm going, holy, crap, this thing. I'm like, and so immediately I start coaching him. I'm like, you got to do this. I'm trying to get him to get a good picture of this thing.
Yeah.
And I don't think any of it took. It was just kind of, but it was
in
still,
one ear and out
but
the other.
like I said though, the one, the very first one, the one that he sent me, he's got the rifle kind of up there in the antlers and stuff, and I'm going, man, that was actually a solid attempt.
Mm-hmm.
But it needs to be brightened up, and he has brightened that up a lot since he kind of went in and fixed it a little bit. And
some mad editing skills, yeah.
But
Aaron's pretty good.
But I'm like
Photoshop.
I'm like, okay, you need to kind of do this and and this and he's like, I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm by myself at this point.
Yeah.
And I've explained, it was interesting because the cell coverage is sketchy, at best.
Yeah.
So this particular spot, I mean, I had 4G. I'm like, so I click a picture, I send it, and then Scott, he texts me back. He's like, the younger brother, he's like, hey, do you need some help? And I'm like, duh.
Yeah.
Look, what do you, and I explained to him, where I was probably about a mile or so off the, one of the main roadways at that point. So, but you'd be surprised that, I mean, we've packed some, elk out here and there, but, that was a big elk.
Oh yeah, when you hit some of those mature bulls like that,
there's a lot of.
And
that's
what
a
you
lot.
guys, I mean, what was it, like a mile, maybe a little over a mile in? You guys packed that out. It wasn't like it was a long pack out, but that country in there, it's difficult. I mean, you find yourself in a spot pretty easily that it's hard to get anything out of.
Yeah.
But
so Wes, when did you really start to figure out, did this sink in how big that bull was?
I wasn't really concerned. I mean, I'm like, it's a cool bull, and really the only person that I try to satisfy when I hunt is myself. Honestly, people say, well, the fronts are weak. Have you heard that before?
Yeah, a lot.
The fronts are weak or whatever.
backs.
It's like, you know what?
Right.
I don't judge your animal.
Right.
At any rate.
But look at this thing. I've had that a lot with animals. People. I'm like, I freaking love the way this looks, and somebody will be like, yeah, but it's got weak. It's got weak fronts, and I'm going.
Well, and it's funny how we are obsessed with antlers and stuff.
And so everybody's asking me. I wasn't really concerned even at that point about getting it scored because we've actually over the years, we've managed to kill some pretty good animals.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we'd never had one scored, so I wasn't really familiar with the process. And Duane is saying, you got to get that scored. And I'm like, who cares? I'm thinking it's probably 380, 385. It's a cool bull,
Yeah.
I mean, he said, well, you got to get it shoulder mounted. And I'm like, are you kidding?
And put it where?
Yeah. Well, I have a split level home, but it's,
Yeah.
it doesn't have the area that some do, like Duane's house.
So then you decided.
So then we talking. Everybody's asking me. Everybody's seen it, and in fact, the taxidermist, when I take it in, she's like, "That's the biggest one we've ever had here." And I'm like, "Oh, you probably say that to all the hunters." She's like, "No, it's serious." So at any rate, everybody's asking, and it becomes, and especially in the small community, it's instant.
Right.
Everybody wants to see it. They took it to another location that they have, in another town. And, so actually it's when I was scoring it. So I take it in, I look through, I find a name of a guy that's a Boone and Crockett official scorer. Mm-hmm. And as it turns out, I picked him. It's another story how we met Fred.
Yeah.
But he's quite renowned, Fred King, in the scoring world. In fact, when they do panel judging for world records, Fred's one of them that they generally call. Like the Spider Bowl, for example.
Right.
He was on that final panel. And it was purely coincidental that I chose him. Of course, I didn't know this going into it. But my son-in-law and we pack it to Bozeman, which is
Los Angeles.
Where Fred lives. And we get it out there, and I'd called him and made the appointment. He's like, yeah, bring it out, As I'm pulling it out, he's going, I'm thinking, half hour, 45 minutes, like 2.5 hours, 3 hours later.
Yeah.
He's like, wow, congratulations, you have a trophy. But there was there was a girth measurement that he remeasured after the fact. Initially, he'd scored it at like a 427, I think, or somewhere in that
something
range.
like that, 427.
And I'm happy. I mean, like I say, if he'd have told me 200, I'd have
amazing.
been happy.
Right, yeah.
But at the same
Just
time,
a number.
But at the same time, Wes looks at the one sheet that he'd done, and he's kind of adding it up, and he's going, well, that doesn't add up to what got submitted, and so and at that point we're going, it's number 2 at that point.
Uh-huh.
And we're all ecstatic.
whatever
We're just
reason.
like,
Yeah.
woohoo, that's freaking awesome.
Yeah.
But Wes is looking at it and he's like, honestly, if this one's right, this is the state record.
Mm-hmm.
And so he called Fred back up again.
Yeah, and Fred, Fred and I talked through a little bit, and Fred, Fred made another trip over to, to the location
Yep.
where the head was at. And I got to
like,
say,
I'll go
those
check it
guys,
out.
they do a lot of work for no
Yep.
little recognition.
Yep.
Fred runs over the hill. The taxidermist in White Sulphur Springs. But anyway, he goes and remeasures, this girth measurement that was in question. And as it turned out, of course, it gained, it was a 4 inch difference, which is huge.
Right.
Obviously.
When you're talking about, where just a half inch is the difference between one record and another record.
Well, he called me again too, and he's like, should I even mess with this? Should I, he told me kind of about what he'd seen there.
Yeah.
And he's like, should I even mess with it? It's
Who
number
cares?
2.
Yeah.
This is a freaking giant. He's like, I don't really care. And I'm like, yeah, but I do. I said, get your butt on the phone and let's straighten this out, because the difference between 1 and 2 at that point was inch and a half or something like that. I mean, it was something small, and I'm going, if that bumps you up,
Yeah.
I want you to have it.
Well, what's cool is makes you wonder how many guys have killed something bigger and never
not
turned it in.
scored.
And there's a
lot of that,
those.
Yeah.
I think. It's interesting because, people, this comes up here and there, the whole Boone and Crockett and Pope and Young and measuring a bull and all of that. And the history behind it and what it's really all about gets lost on people because, for those that are listening that don't know or new to hunting, which we have quite a few listeners that are, the Boone and Crockett Club and the Pope and Young Club, they have a system of measuring the antler size of an animal to determine how big it is.
How it compares, among similar species.
Yeah. And really where it started from, as I understand it, and I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm not, is Boone and Crockett used it as animals were on the road to recovery. As we were sitting here, trying to restore our wildlife that was nearly wiped out, extirpated from most of their previous ranges where they used to live. It was a way to test the health of the comeback of the populations. So as hunters reported their animals and they were able to be scored, the idea being that when a bull is 400 inches, it's getting the water, the habitat, the shelter, all the stuff it needs to be strong and live a long time.
We've got an area here where where the habitat's improved enough and our numbers are rebounding enough that we can produce these
that
animals.
makes so that a guy like me, who's just a normal, ordinary guy, can go out and, the potential is there, the possibility exists. Yeah. And I think they work, like you were saying, Brian, as far as their conservation efforts, I think they work hand in hand with Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation.
They do.
They use that, like you said, as maybe a measure of where they would focus efforts.
Right, because if you
habitat.
see a steep decline where you used to have this area where there was just monsters that were coming out of there, and all of a sudden there's just nothing of a mature quality that was there in the past, you start to ask yourself why, and you can start to look. So when you report, unfortunately today, a lot of times guys or people will look at it because of trophy hunting, because of hunting for maybe the wrong reasons, or to get a number, or to beat your chest, or to say, hey, I have the biggest animal, I'm better than you, that sort of thing. some guys, it's like, look, the scoring isn't what this is about for me.
Right.
Being the number one state record, this isn't why I went out hunting that day.
And that's
Absolutely not.
how Wes was. Like I said, I mean, I was like, he's like, I don't really care if it's in the book, dude. He's like, I've got an awesome bull here. It's gonna look great. It's gonna taste great. And I'm going, I don't care. I'm like, go get it freaking measured.
Well, and the thing is,
the fun thing of it is, I think Tiffany said it one time about, Duane has come up and hunted with us.
the
Like
ginger's
it's a
coming
family.
out.
It's a
I'm
family.
telling you,
What's that?
the ginger's coming
Yeah,
out.
there you go. But she's like, you don't really care if you get anything or not. You just want to go up there and hang around with your brothers. And you know what? That's
You
a
caught
lot
me.
of it.
That's what
Yeah,
it is.
It is.
My
I mean,
kids.
it's just it's a heritage for us, and it's
Along
just,
the way, maybe you'll pick up a trophy.
yeah.
Well, and now I was going to say, when we don't report an animal, then that actually makes it harder for Boone and Crockett to do.
I agree.
To do their job, Pope and Young to do their job.
Yep. Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, all these they use that data as part of their plan.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's not this this negative thing to report it. I think where it can get, like I said earlier, out of hand, or where it's distasteful is when it appears that people like that the reason for hunting is really for social status.
Yeah.
Right.
Within the hunting world.
That really does put a bad name to all of us.
Yeah.
That it actually means something. Yeah.
But what's cool is when a guy like you that just goes out without a lot of fanfare, just going out with dad and brothers and doing your thing, just like you always do, and on public land, you come across a record bull.
The interesting fact about it, which I almost hate to admit too, because it's in my backyard, but the Felix bull, the world record, was also taken in the same county as my bull, the Sessions bull.
Makes sense, right?
Yeah.
The genetics are there.
They are.
The habitat is there. However it's being managed,
and it's honestly that unit out there is an incredible story in and of itself, because I've told you, when I was growing up, we didn't see elk out there. We went elk hunting on the out on the western side of the state. We did not hunt elk. Great mule deer habitat, great antelope habitat. We didn't have elk, and just in the last 10 or 15 years, I mean, that place has just, I mean, it. There's a lot of animals, and it's
which is
a testament to
management.
Management and wildlife conservation.
Yeah, you hear some people say, I've heard it on Ronella's podcast a few times, where it's like, the good old days. There back in the day, when it was good, when hunting was at its peak, and it's like, I don't know. I went hunting with Snyder here in Colorado last year, and I was like, the good old days are now.
Yep.
I mean, there were so many elk.
You think about,
they're in my yard.
Yeah.
They're in my yard. They're like, every day I see elk and deer.
We're spoiled.
Yeah, we really are. I mean, it is an amazing time to be a hunter and to be able to harvest meat from the wild like that, bring it home. It's just really cool. So back to the story.
Okay.
Duane's like, get it done, Wes. Quit being a baby.
Yeah. So like I say, it definitely has been, an interesting journey, just to learn the process. And again, I was not as familiar with Boone and Crockett as I am now, of course.
Right.
Teddy Roosevelt actually is who they attribute the initial start to, I believe.
Yeah.
And so Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, some of these organizations that I'm, I mean, I know of them and I know them, but to have a better understanding of what they're trying to do and trying to accomplish, that's part of it as well.
Yeah.
But,
so you got it remeasured then?
Yeah, actually, Fred, I started to say, those guys that do the measuring, they don't get a lot of accolades. And they don't do it for the accolades either.
Yeah.
And they spend their own time. They're not paid for their service. And like I said with Fred, initially, I'm thinking, I'm going to take 45 minutes of his time, and it ends up being a significant amount of time, to any of us that are busy, to just take 3 hours with a total stranger and handle his, animal, but that didn't sound quite right. At any rate, but he did, and then again to double check it, he made a trip at his own expense to recheck that girth measurement, and then when he sent me the final results, I actually took a picture of it and sent it to Duane. He didn't complain about that picture.
No, that was a good picture.
I thought I'd done well. I'll have to show you some of the. I'll have to show you all
we'll
of them.
We'll put them on the podcast.
Oh,
we'll have to dub them in at the start of the podcast. So anybody listening, they want to see these antlers on this bull.
He's impressive. He's an impressive bull. He really is.
Yeah.
And but again, we talk about luck, and I read it all over, and wrestling. We've been involved in sporting different things over the years, but they say luck is where or success, whatever you want to put in there.
Hard work is
opportunity meets preparation, something of that nature, and that really is how it ends up. I guess that you're able to harvest anything, for that matter. But
so, when do you find out if this is the official?
It's actually, if you look through the all-time record list on the Montana Fish and Game website, it is listed there.
Okay.
And I might add that the guy that it's listed under is Garth W. Sessions, which that would be me. Garth. Yep. Here we go.
Whoa! Wait a minute. What happened to Wes?
Well, that's the W, and that's a long story.
Garth.
But I will answer to anything that's not too obscene generally. So,
yep.
So there you go. But
Garth Westbrooks.
If only. Yeah. He's going to be
Duane the Rock Sessions. So
do I need to sing? Oh, all right.
No.
So tell me this, Wes, before we wrap up. I just want, tell me what is, the best part of this entire experience.
I guess looking at it in terms of my own person, in terms of the hunt, actually, my 3-year-old dad actually harvesting the cow was, in my mind, honestly, just as cool as any of it. That was the best part of the experience. It was another year that we were able to go out together, and you're in a controlled environment there, with my kids. That's what I've really enjoyed about the outdoors. It's been my experience that sometimes you have to lose yourself in the woods to find your way, and it provides that opportunity. I've read also, it's we don't hunt to kill, yet killing is part of the hunt. All those cliche little adages, but it's true, and that's, to me, that was the best part of it. I was able to. The only thing I wish Duane could have been there. I really do. He actually was there when I killed my first bull, which is another story. But I really wish he could have been there. That would have made it complete.
Yeah.
Along with my kids, my youngest is at school, and my oldest was actually working. But if they all could have been there, it really would have made it
that much
perfect.
Better. Your he's getting older, 72 years old.
Yeah.
But he's getting around. I just hung out with him last night.
Yep.
Yeah, he does. He gets around real well, and
he's deceptive.
Yeah.
He's maybe not trudging up and down, 5, 6, 7, 8 miles a day or more.
But he's still. He's not going anywhere. As long as he can continue to go out there with this, he'll sit in the truck if he has to. He just, it's just, most of our good memories growing up are the four of us out in the woods, and
yeah,
I remember. I shouldn't even say it as, the legality of it all. But I remember Scott and Duane. I hate to admit that I'm this much older than they are. But and you brought that up too, Brian, so we won't go there. Remember, this is a podcast. We don't want any...
there is quite a difference between you and Duane.
Yeah, they're a few years.
I think you could be his dad.
Yeah. We don't want age discrimination on your podcast here, so ease up.
You still got real hips, as my daughter said.
Yeah,
you don't have fake hips.
That was funny. But I remember the two of them in the middle. We had a single cab pickup. In fact, it was a 2-wheel drive, and we'd go out. We'd drive out to one of our little favorite spots, and these two little guys would be in the middle. I'd have one of them behind my elbow, and Dad would have the other one behind his, and because they wouldn't sit down.
Yeah.
But it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
We learned a lot.
Well, I think, and Duane, What do you think about this whole experience?
I mean, I was just, like I said, when I got that text from him, I mean, I was just pumped. I was, I was sad that I wasn't there.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm just like, oh man, because I've been on a couple of hunts with Wes where he's shot some nice bulls, and and I love being there and having that experience. But I was just so excited that we'd found something like that. They'd found something like that out there, and had just made it happen. And
Yeah, I think it's you back to talking about
real life, baby. This is real life.
I was trying to figure out how I was gonna get my coverage taken care of with the kids so I could drive up there that that
What's
day.
so funny is it's like I've been hunting a while and I've worked pretty hard at it. I still have never seen a 400-inch bull in the wild. Like I've never come across something even like a 390 as far as I know.
There's been a couple that have been big, like above 350, but I don't think I've ever seen one that 400 bull.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, back to what you said, I've never really been that excited about antlers. I will say I'm a lot more excited about mule deer antlers than I am elk antlers for some reason.
They're more common. It seems like they're a little easier to judge. Maybe not easier, but they're it's easier to distinguish. Hey, that's a big deer.
I guess
that's a good one,
for me, I'm so excited about any elk.
Well,
that it's like the antlers.
Yeah, that's where I'm at too.
But with a mule deer, I really am. I don't know what it is, but same with blacktail bucks. I get into deer antlers, but elk, I don't get too. I just am excited. I guess I kind of equate elk with meat, so I sort of I don't look at them in the same light. But with elk, last year Aaron shot that bull with his recurve.
That was pretty awesome.
And this is not a giant bull. I mean, he was a herd bull with 20 cows, but not a big bull.
It has
really.
elk hair on it with the recurve. That's pretty impressive.
But that's the thing is, it's all that the experience is what I think makes it the trophy, right? Like it's not the size of the antlers. And when you do come across that giant, that's just icing on the cake.
Yes,
it's really not the purpose or the point of going out there. So. It's a cool story, Wes. I'm glad you came on the podcast.
Probably never hear me repeat it, unfortunately. But, as far as having it happen again.
Yeah. But, it's kind of hard to shoot the state record.
But it's like I've said, the night before Christmas, the little elk antlers dance in your head,
Dude, that is so awesome.
Yeah.
So awesome.
Thanks. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, that just doesn't happen to everybody every day, especially when you got as many people today that are seriously dedicated to trying to shoot something that's like a state record.
Yeah.
I mean, they spend their waking breath trying to go for it. And then some guy like you, it's really got to chap their hide to see that.
Two of us, like I say, that Felix bull was kind of the same type of situation.
Yeah.
I actually got a chance to meet him. I know we're probably done, but I got to meet him a couple of weeks ago, and it
the guy who harvested that bull.
Yeah, Pope and Young.
Yeah. The world record, and so he's setting it up in a store in Los Angeles. Schnee's actually.
Yeah.
And I said, Steve, I said, I don't want to get in your way. I said, but before, when you're done, I'd just like to talk to you for a minute. And I introduced myself, and he went, "Oh, you're that guy." I'm like, "Yeah." And so, we talked a little bit, and he's just another, just kind of an average, just a dude,
The dude.
And he's like, "We got to get these together somewhere." And I'm thinking that really would be cool.
That would be cool.
The same county, same year, both state records. His, of course, being a world record.
We'll set it up with Casey and JoJo.
There you go.
Nice. All right, folks.
We can make it happen.
That's right. Make it happen, Captain. Thanks for joining us on the Gritty Bone Podcast. Duane.
Stay gritty.
Stay gritty.
Rock on. Stay gritty.
Thanks, guys. In 1907, only 41,000 elk remained in North America, and in 1950, only 12,000 pronghorn remained. Today, there are more than 1 million elk and 1.1 million pronghorn. Why? Because hunting is conservation. In 1937, hunters actually requested an 11% tax on guns, ammo, bows, and arrows to help fund conservation. That tax so far raised more than $8 billion for wildlife conservation. Altogether, hunters pay more than $1.6 billion a year for conservation programs. No one gives more. It's obvious that hunters care about animals, and yet we actively hunt and kill them. Many people cannot understand this dichotomy. How can we both care about animals and also kill them? It's a question that I challenge all of you to consider. Here is an excerpt from the Gritty Bowman film, Alberta, with a quote from Fred Bear that describes my feelings on this subject. The first shot on this buck was fatal, and it cleanly pierced his vitals, but he didn't go down. I hate to see animals suffer, and when possible, I will always shoot them again if I have the opportunity. I have tremendous respect for this buck and his will to survive. He didn't go down easy, and I have mixed emotions about that. At times like this, I am reminded of a quote by Fred Bear, which somewhat describes my thoughts on this matter. Quote, I have always tempered my killing with respect for the game pursued. I see the animal not only as a target, but as a living creature with more freedom than I will ever have. I take that life if I can, with regret as well as joy, and with the sure knowledge that nature's way of fang and claw and starvation are a far crueler fate than I bestow. I do not hunt for the joy of killing, but for the joy of living, and the inexpressible pleasure of mingling my life, however briefly, with that of a wild creature that I respect, admire, and value. We can argue as much as we like, but the fact is, hunting is man's oldest and most successful try at life. Every human being is alive today because our ancestors hunted. So it's a relatively new phenomenon for people to regard hunting as a cruel and frivolous activity that has no worth outside of personal gratification for the hunter. The funny thing is, hunting has increased my appreciation for wild animals and wild places, not decreased it. And as I watch society lose its ties to wildlife and conservation, I feel my bond with nature grow ever stronger in direct correlation to my time spent hunting. I understand now more than ever that hunting is the greatest hope for creating the next generation of true conservationists. Never stop sharing your passion for hunting in the outdoors. Our wild animals and wild places depend on it. We thank Kifaru, Mountain Ops, Hoyt, Vortex, Phelps Game Calls, Black Eagle Arrows, and Crispy Boots for supporting the Gritty Bowman. We love these companies and the people behind them. They truly make fantastic products. Please support them however you can. As always, good luck on your hunts and stay gritty.
This is Ty Stubblefield, and you're listening to the Gritty Bowman.
Gritty Bowman.